Hello again, dear friends and painters. Today we are going to talk about this watercolor that represents Cantina, which is a wine cellar. And traditionally, these are underground spaces where they would serve wine, and where the wine was stored. It basically means cellar. However, the temperature in Italy is extremely high in summer. It can reach over 100 degrees. So there was a huge need to protect the wine, which spoils in high temperatures. And they would use these cantinas to preserve the wine. However, over time, many of them became just more than just wine cellars, and they became gathering places, almost like, I don't want to say a bar, but a gathering place for people. And that's where neighbors, the locals, will congregate, will go down there and just chit chat. And some of them might even have a glass of wine. And today there's a lot of visitors, there's of course a lot of tourists, and they enjoy cantinas because they are kind of hidden places. You kind of have to know where they are. And in this watercolor, what we are also seeing here is that there is a flower, a plant that goes around the door, and this flower is called glicine in Italian, and it's the Wisteria flower, and the Wisteria flower and the Wisteria plant, because Wisteria can grow out of plant pots, just like this one. And as you can see, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to pinpoint the spaces where the building comes through, but the Wisteria, the glicine, is going to be the main actor here because it's going to show its beautiful purple, which is kind of bluish purple flowers, and they hang down from these branches. The branches are almost too thin. They kind of seem too thin to bear the branches, the flowers on them. But and this is a place with a lot of personality because as you can see on the right side of the place, there is a little window. I also painted this from a photo, and there's a little window, and these windows are actually across Tuscany and across Italy, and they can contain a lot of different things, but mostly right now they have memorabilia, so like old bottles or books or pieces of something that doesn't exist anymore. And if you have noticed, I didn't apply the ochre everywhere. I just applied where it is needed. And now I'm putting down this really dark, this is dark blue, by the way. It's really dark color because I want to emphasize that there is a hole here and it goes down. Next to the entrance, there is a big Chianti bottle, which is the typical wine from the region. And it is a real bottle. It's just very big and it's filled with wine. And it has kind of a big label because that's their sign. So the sign is a big bottle, along with the sign on top of the cantina. And I'm painting here some shadows from the wisteria, from the flower, and the shadow goes all the way to the ground, and it follows a little bit the cobblestones, which are extremely irregular here, and I really like it. And I like the fact that there is a little bit of the building shines inside the cobblestones. It reflects on the cobblestones. Basically, this watercolor is about showing how nature slowly embraced the buildings over time in Italy, and nobody would even think about cutting the wisteria, even though it might start to deteriorate the wall, but the wisteria stays, and they are actually all across Tuscany and across Italy, and they can bloom. I read this somewhere. They can have 3 or 4 blooms depending on the season, but they are extremely prolific depending on where they are. I know in Florence there is several that I keep an eye on, and they bloom once or twice a year. It's usually in April or at the end of summer in September. And so here I'm actually adding some leaves because wisterias have a lot of green leaves, and then the flower comes after. So I don't want to overpower it with leaves, although that's like the biggest part of the wisteria, the leaves. But I'm trying to paint these branches as they were having some leaves, but not overpowering it. And this is just the first washes. So I'm painting the whole thing. I'm not starting from one corner and going down. That's a better technique than trying to paint the details first. So what I recommend usually is you look at a scene, like this is a photo, okay? I took this photo and I want to paint the watercolor of this photo. If you squint your eyes and then you look at the colors, you can see that there is a lot of ochre, which it's terra di Siena, that's what it's called. And also you can see there is a big black hole in the middle, which I'm emphasizing here with some more pigment. And then there is the purple and the green of the wisteria. So what you want to do is you want to lay down the entire painting with these colors, and making sure that because of the blue of the wisteria and the green has to come through, so there has to be white paper behind it. You want to make sure that ochre is actually very light, and it does not go in areas where the wisteria is going to be, where the flowers are going to be, and where the leaves are going to be. Now, on the other hand, as you can see here, I'm mimicking some bricks, and these are going to be visible bricks. So this is stuff you can see with your naked eye when you stand next to it, and it's because these walls are very old, and they're going to show some bricks through. So some of them have the intonaco, but some don't have the intonaco, which is the part that covers the bricks. And the vase where the wisteria is in, that's usually a cotto vase. So it's a cotto is basically clay, and it's burned into a kiln oven. And in Tuscany, this is very traditional. You're going to find very few plastic vases, even big ones, that might cost 1,000 euros, but people have them. And people even have giant ones that were once used to store things in, for example, food. And they're actually called orcio. And yes, you probably guessed it. The famous Val d'Orcia, the name Orcia comes from the name of these big containers, which are called orcio. It's usually a container, so a vase in Tuscany, which is called a vaso, or vaso da piante. Basically, it's a vase for flowers, for plants. Those are and they're open on the top, so they go from the bottom and they open on the top, and those are usually used for plants because on the top they have to have a big opening for the rain to come in, or if you water them, for the water. But orcio does the opposite. It goes from small to big and then to small. So the opening on the top is quite small because it has to contain things like olives or anything else you can possibly think of. By the way, if you're still watching and enjoy this tutorial and would like to support the channel, you will find my link to my Etsy shop in the description below. And most of these tutorials are available there for you to order as prints, but I can also paint them as originals. Just send me an email there on Etsy and we'll start talking. And I can also do a custom watercolor for you from any picture, any photo you have, including portraits, pet portraits, anything you like. What I'm doing here is I'm getting this ultramarine very dry on my brush. It's super dry, so when I go in and I just dab it a little bit, it creates the effect of these wisteria strings, because wisteria kind of hangs on strings, and it creates this effect of something hanging from a string. And it's a trick that I use so that it looks a little bit more realistic. Instead of dabbing each single piece of wisteria, I just have a flat brush, which is going to be vertical in this case, and I just put a lot of dry paint on it, so it will create this interesting effect, and it's gonna look like there is wisteria hanging. So the first washes are there. They create the atmosphere. Now I'm filling in with just where it's needed, and I think I overworked it again. That's probably too much blue, I don't know, but it looks good, it looks okay, so I'm not concerned about that. And watercolors, they really create beautiful transitions where it's impossible to imitate with brush strokes, or it's very difficult. If this was an oil painting, I would have to do a lot of layers because the wisteria has to be light, but the background is darker, so it would be a challenge. But with watercolors, you can kind of go around it. And now I'm trying to give a little bit more importance to this box it's literally inside the wall. So they dug up the wall and they put this box inside, and it could have contained, historically, I don't know exactly what was the purpose of this box, but it could have been anything. It could have been holding the menu of a restaurant from 300 years ago, maybe, and or it could have been holding certain supplies that people are supposed to buy and then pay somehow. I really don't know, but it looks very nice, and you can find these many times on Italian buildings. And it kind of reminds me of the Buchetta del Vino, which is the little windows in Florence that open and they give you wine through them. You probably heard about them. But they're not exactly for wine. These are for, who knows, other things. And it's really quaint because you're walking through streets and suddenly you see an opening, and that's where weird things are, mostly memorabilia today. I'm also trying to paint more of this because if you squint your eyes, you're going to see that this opening, this door, is the darkest part of the whole watercolor. So I'm using a lot of pigment and dry paint here in order to emphasize the fact that this is the darkest part. And I'm starting from the top because the light comes from the top. We are in a daylight situation here, so the biggest shadow will be, of course, on the top of the building, and then as we progress down, there's going to be a lot of reverberant light. So light is shining everywhere, but mostly on the bottom, because on the top that's covered by the ceiling of that little room. And I'm painting this the sign yellow. It says Cantina, and the major thing here is to try to get a sense of that wisteria that's climbing everywhere. And I I sort of accomplished it by the drawing that was underneath, and also the cobblestones need to be a little bit more on the dark side, because it just when watercolor dries, it becomes lighter. So you may wanna do one layer and then wait and see how that layer works once it's dry, and then apply another layer and another layer if you need to darken it. And in this case, it was very good that I darkened it, because it works much better than if the cobblestones are too light. I don't want them too light. And I'm painting the other window, which also has shutter. And I'm trying to render the box here. This is a wooden box. It's like a frame, basically. It's like when you have windows and you have a frame around it. This is exactly the same thing. And these things open. So, like if you go next to a building that has one of these little windows, you can actually open them. Not you personally, but like the people that manage the place open them, and they can put different things there, usually advertisement or memorabilia. I'm using some more pigment here to emphasize the entrance. And inside here, you don't really see much, but I want to mimic that there is something there. Okay, so it's not that flat. It might have been flat, but there's definitely some other things in there. We just don't see them because they are extremely dark. And so I'm just like mimicking things in the dark, which is very difficult because like, you know, but I definitely didn't want it to be flat, because if it's flat, then it doesn't look good. There's always something going on in these buildings. Like the bricks on the surface of the building, they will definitely be. I need to keep going with those bricks because they're definitely they need to be darker. And here I'm using my super special small brush to emphasize shadows, and I love this brush because it's like a pen, and it allows me to draw while I'm painting. Isn't that amazing? This is just wonderful. So you're making a drawing and a painting at the same time. There's an artist that does the same, and I forgot his name, but I'll do a little bit of research and I'll tell you. But a lot of artists, when they were preparing their oil paintings, even big names like Rembrandt, for example. Rembrandt was a master etcher, so he was doing etchings a lot, which is an etching is exclusively pen. You actually use a needle on a plate, but it's exclusively pen drawings. And you have to render everything. You have to render the shadows, the lights, the forms, everything just with sort of like a pen. So I'm starting to paint this. There's a shutter here, and it's going to be green. And I'm not really sure what this shutter was about. I don't have the picture that I took, but I know there is a shutter, and I drew this, so it's definitely there. And I want to make sure that it's there. And the shutters in Tuscany, for some reason, well, it could be even like a very simple reason that the town demands a certain color, but it's kind of peculiar that all of the shutters, most of the shutters in Tuscany, they're green. And the green I discovered, it's emerald green with a touch of blue. And I discovered this because I was trying to paint a shutter, and just by using emerald green, and it wouldn't come out right. It wasn't the right color. And then I discovered that it's darker than just emerald green. So I used, here's my super tiny brush again. It's really, really good. It really renders lots of things that you could use a pen, but a pen is just too sharp. And there's no variety in your stroke while this little brush allows for that variety. And see how beautiful and vibrant this case is right now. So let's go back to our shutter. So shutters are emerald green if you ever have to paint them. And now what I want to do is I want to, with my tiny brush, I want to emphasize the wisteria plant, the trunk of the plant. And I made a little mistake here, which is a technical mistake that you have to be aware when you are painting trees and vegetation in general, but trees really. So a tree can never grow in girth. Let's call it girth as it goes up. So as it goes up, it becomes thinner, and it's the thickest at the bottom. And this is kind of a rule. It almost never fails. It's almost always this way. So as you can see, there is like they cut the bottom of the wisteria. There was another branch coming out from the right side, but they cut that one for some reason. And here I'm just doing these I don't know what to call them, but they are basically wisteria's branches, and they have the flowers on. But the bottom, let's go back to the bottom. So the bottom of the wisteria plant, the entire thing, the stem that comes from the ground, it has to be the thickest on the bottom. And here, the thickest part is actually the first, what do you call it? The first time that it's going right, and then it turns and it goes left. So that part where it changes direction, that's the thickest one. And it's not the bottom. So I better fix that, because it is a big rule of nature and it's gonna look funny. And if it looks funny, you know you made a mistake. So we're gonna see if I fix it. I'm also emphasizing the sign here, so it shines a little bit better. And I'm detailing. So right now, I just want everything to be a little bit more detailed, because as you can see, if you step a little bit back and you look at this, the main colors are in. And now you're not going to be doing much correction, because this is it. And I'm also adding some dark color. It's probably a blue on the bottom, because buildings in Tuscany usually get like a dark patina on the bottom, and that's because rain and weather and wind and other things in the air, they tend to darken the bottom of the buildings, and the top of the buildings tend to be lighter. And also the light that comes into the streets creates this effect. So buildings are typically darker on the bottom and lighter on the top. And then they become very dark when the roof is casting a shadow. In this case, we don't have a roof here, but you can easily imagine how to paint a watercolor with a roof on top, and that will cast a shadow. I'm putting some more branches here, the wisteria. I think my brush was a little too saturated, so I probably should have gone with a little bit of a lighter brown, but that's okay. It will still work. Wisteria is beautiful. It creates these branches that are extremely floppy. They are long, and the thickness of them doesn't change. So they become probably like 1/4 of an inch in diameter, and that thing goes for 10, 15 feet, and it just keeps going, and the flowers just pop out of it. It's very mysterious. I don't really know exactly how this works, but it's a beautiful flower. I'm adding some of those bricks here, as I told before, because you don't want to see white paper. If you see white paper, it means something is missing, but I'm emphasizing these bricks that are behind the wisteria. And I'm trying to make them darker because it's basically the bricks have come to light because the surface of the building has lost its protective mantle, which is it's called the intonaco, and that protective part is basically in European construction. You have bricks, and then on top of the bricks you put this layer of it's like cement, but it's not cement. And basically this is what those bricks represent. So it's where this outer layer has broken out and has fallen down due to moisture or whatever, and now you have bricks that are showing. And it's beautiful because buildings in Italy, they all look very rugged like this, and some have been fixed, yep, but some didn't. So most of them are not really repaired. And I'm especially emphasizing here around doors and windows. That's where usually the whole thing crumbles down. I'm adding some more bricks here for there was a part there was a piece of the wall that was a little bit too empty, and I didn't like it, so I'm putting more bricks here just for the effect of an old wall. I'm liking it so far. It's a little flat, it doesn't have perspective, but you know, not everything has to have perspective. I'm creating here some shadows that the wisteria is casting on the wall with dark brown, because the wall is dark brown. The wall is brownish. It's called terra di Siena. It's the yellow part. But when you cast a shadow on something that already has a color, then that color changes. Sometimes it's going to be a complementary color. So in this case, I could have used like a dark blue or a purple to do the shadows. But in this case, I really liked the brown. And I'm gonna finish it with that brown. I'm still working on the bricks, but what I'm gonna do later is I'm going to put some more shadows. Some are gonna be dark blue, some are gonna be dark brown. But what I want is that the wisteria that's on the wall is casting a shadow on the wall. So all those little teeny tiny flowers, which I'm obviously not gonna do because it's impossible, but those are gonna be casting a shadow on the wall. And also, I forgot if I did this or not, but what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to do a shadow of the wisteria trunk that's coming up on the wall, and I'm going to try to make the shadow of that trunk on the wall. So let's see if I actually do that. That should be done. I'm just putting some more shadows inside the wisteria flowers, so it looks like there is more shadows there, and I'm applying some more contrast here. I'm trying to show that this is a little like a cabinet outside, hanging outside, but it's not hanging. It's actually inside. It's built into the building, and I'm just putting some more shadows so it looks more three-dimensional, which is very great because those things sometimes they hang off of the building, so maybe this one is hanging. And I'm doing some retouching here for the shutter. As you can see, it has those little planks like all Italian shutters have, and I'm using my super small brush because I kind of want to make the shutter a little bit more visible, so I'm also casting a shadow there. And this is definitely one of my favorite tools because I'm basically drawing right now. So yeah, this one, it's very difficult to make this shutter behind the wisteria because there's wisteria in front of it, so I don't want to overpower it with my brush. There's also the other case on the other side. I don't really know exactly what was in that one, but I think it was a little statue. It was a little statue of something, and yeah, I should probably show the picture, but I don't have it at the moment. And I'm adding some details in the bricks here so they look more natural with my little teeny tiny brush. And some of them cast a really strong shadow where those little holes are. So I'm emphasizing that because that is always beautiful on bricks and on walls. You have like a really dark little pinhole, and then the rest of it is illuminated by the sun. So it's nice to have those little pinholes that might lead across one of the bricks that's not completely matching the other brick that's underneath, but you can see the shadow that it's casting on the other brick. I am liking it so far. I think we need to add more shadows though. I think we need to, the wisteria has to cast a shadow on the wall. So let's see if we can accomplish this, because this is very difficult without mudding the whole thing. You don't want to, yeah, exactly. You don't want to put too much shadow, because then you're gonna lose the illusion of the wall. Like in this case, I almost stopped here because I'm basically canceling the wall, but there is a shadow that this wisteria is casting on the wall, so it has to be done so it looks a little bit more three-dimensional. As you can see now, the wisteria looks a little bit farther from the wall, which it is. It's hanging on the wall, but it's not part of the wall. And so I'm going to repeat this process through the other bunches of flowers. So they look like they are being detached from the entire plant, which they are. So I'm just putting shadows where they are needed, as opposed to where I think they should be. I'm always fighting this in my head. I'm always fighting what I think should be, as opposed to where the paint is needed so it looks good. This is a big one, and you're gonna be, if you get to the point where you're finding this, great, because it means you really get it. You get how paint works and how paintings are made, because it's the struggle of every artist. Overwork and putting way too many details where they're not needed. There's no need to put details. If the painting is already speaking to you, leave it alone. But as we all know, it's a constant battle. So I think I actually, I don't know, I did a pretty good job here. But just adding some very few details and a little bit more shadows. I'm not overly happy, but I'm quite happy. I did not fix that trunk, and that needed to be fixed. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.